So the next challenge will be I'll present one sentence at a time, and these will just be standalone sentences. And then people can try to guess the meaning of the sentence. So the first sentence is What doth we hail day? What doth we hail day? How are people getting on?
I have something. I think it's probably not right, but
I think I would need a last repetition of that.
Okay. What doth we hail day? Should we send then?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's send. Okay. Okay. So Fernando, what's your guess?
My guess would be what do you hold there? Was hältst du da? Because I got the quath or quath does, like what does, and then something that remind me of holding, but more I couldn't get.
Okay. And Eric?
My guess is something like Was tun wir heute? Which would translate to what are we doing today or what should we do today? Just as a general question. I think the Heodai sounded like heute to me, which would be today, but yeah. That's all I got.
And Moritz?
Yeah, I got a bit different. I understood something like a way, so the way you are doing today, maybe something like that. So my guess would be how are you, or in German wie geht es dir, or Hurdeling Gerti in Frisian.
Okay. So Eric got it exactly right.
Oh wow.
These What doth we hail day is what are we doing today or what should we do today? So actually the words you used, Was tun wir heute, I think all of those words are exact cognates of the words I used. So hail day, if you were to produce an exact cognate of the German word heute, it would probably be like Helde or something like that, but they affix the word day, meaning day, to the end of it. So that's why it doesn't sound quite the same.
Wow, I was really lucky.
Very good indeed. And you were the one that said you only had a general guess.
Yeah, I thought I was like way off, but yeah.
That's really interesting because my answer in the Frisian answer is actually Hurdeling Gerti, and this Delling, I've also written it down like that, is a part of the question marker that is not mandatory, which has the direct translation to heute or to today. So this is a marker that you can add to the question, referring that this question refers to this day we're currently having. So to today.
Oh, okay.
That's
that's
interesting.
Interesting.
It's, in this case, more of a coincidence that I choose that form, but it's an interesting fact.
Yeah, that is an interesting fact. So the second sentence is Sum man was on have. Sum man was on have. How's everyone getting on?
I don't really have a clue, but I try my best.
You said that last time.
Yeah, that's true. But I think this time it's really it's worse.
Oh, sorry, I accidentally sent it already.
That's
fine. Okay. I think that's okay. Fernando, what's your guess?
I understood that some man was something. So ein Mann war etwas. I didn't get the etwas part.
Okay. And Moritz?
Yeah, I understand. I wasn't sure about the last part of the sentence. I thought it was something like heath. So I thought maybe the German word Heide or the Frisian word hier. So my German sentence would be Irgendein Mann war in der Heide, and my Frisian sentence would be Hocken Mann wär een Hiel. So.
Okay. And Eric?
My guess is jemand war im Hafen. So I also understood like Fernando, some man was something, and then I understood on and have, and although on doesn't really make sense as a preposition, I guess, for Hafen, which is port, by the way. I don't know. It just sounded like the German word Hafen to me.
Okay. So Moritz got it right. The sentence I've translated as "a certain man was on the heath," like a specific man was on the heath. I've never quite known what irgendein meant. Does that mean like a specific person or just any person?
Oh. Just in general, some like in colloquial English would say some dude standing somewhere in the heath.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, that's I think in Old English, some man, even though it is ancestral to modern English, some man, which now would imply just some guy. In Old English, it's usually translated as a particular man, a man relevant to the story is on the heath. And indeed, Hade is cognate with Heide in German. So that was very, very well done. And in response to what you said, Eric, about the preposition, in Old English, on was used more broadly. So if you used on with the dative, it could mean the same thing as in, although the preposition in did also exist in Old English. So in some cases they were interchangeable.
That's very interesting. Okay.
And it functioned, I think, in a similar way to modern German, where if you use on with the dative, then it implies in, whereas if you use on with the accusative, it implies into, like it implies transit. But yeah, so that was very good indeed. Moritz and Fernando got everything except the Haida part.
Yeah.
I find it funny that it also depends on where you live, because here in the south I don't have the heath or the harbor. But if you are from Friesland, that's an idea that comes up more easily maybe to your mind.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I suppose if you don't have a Haida anywhere near you, then it might not be something you think of. So everyone did pretty well there. And the last sentence is Se helvon hath fremde bleo. Se helvon hath fremde bleo.
Can you repeat it once more?
Se helvon hath fremde bleo. Okay. Should we send to chat? Okay, Fernando, what's your guess?
My guess was the hero has foreign something again. Der Held hat Fremde, and the last part I did not get. But Fremde was the most obvious word for me here, because
Okay.
it's the very same nowadays in German.
Moritz?
Yeah, I guessed in German it would be Der Himmel hat fremde Leute. So heaven has foreign people or strange people, something like that. And in Frisian it would be Der Himmel her fremden leer.
Okay. And Eric?
Yeah, it sounded like heaven, but I wanted to give Hafen another shot and wrote Die Häfen haben fremde Leute, which would translate to the ports have foreign people.
Okay. I feel like Hafen was a fair guess there with Helwan. So the sentence meant the sky is a strange color. Moritz, you wrote Himmel, which is interesting because obviously that means sky in German. And also, does it mean sky or does it only mean heaven?
It means both.
Both, because in Old English it's the same. Helwan means both sky and heaven. The word sky in modern English comes from an Old Norse loan word. So then the word heaven got relegated to just heaven as in the religious sense. All of you got fremd right. Although in Old English it had a slightly different meaning. It just meant strange rather than specifically implying foreign. So yeah, bleu, I didn't think had a cognate in either language. I'm not sure if any of you can think of anything for bleu meaning color. because in German I think it's Farbe.
Yeah.
And then in Frisian I'm not sure. So I think everybody did pretty well on that one. You all identified that se was the definite article, so that was good.
I just wanted to add to the word sky because I also speak Danish, and sky sky means cloud. So maybe there also the meaning shifted slightly.
I think that probably is cognate. It may even have meant cloud in Old Norse. I'm not actually sure what the word meant in Old Norse. But yeah, everyone's doing very well so far. So now we have a pre-recorded conversation between two speakers in Old English. They're both played by me, but I've tried to make it clear the difference between them. Do a slightly different voice and make it obvious that there's two speakers. So Norbert's going to play the recording now, and then I think if everyone could just kind of guess what the general topic of conversation is, maybe make a comment on what they're talking about, what they're saying to each other. You don't have to translate every sentence or anything like that.
Let's listen.
Fábhunath in Thathús, Outward, That timber is rotted. So spreekt soortliedje a geen naft waalje nog. Ich my dal minus woeda juvan. Zwart wel chisti.
Let's listen to it one more time.
Fábhunath in Thathús, Outward, That timber is rotted. So spreekt soortliedje a geen naft waalje nog. Ich my dal minus woeda juvan. Zwart wel chisti.
Any ideas, or do you want to listen to it one more time? Or
You don't have a written down version of this one, do you?
we do.
We have one. Are we allowed to put it in the?
Only if all of you agree to that. Like if you think that this is completely unintelligible.
I only got one part, so we can have the transcription. Yes, maybe.
Me too.
Do you agree, Moritz?
I only have 2 sentences, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So everybody's agreed that we need to look at the text. So Norbert, if you could put that in the chat, thank you.
All right.
So each speaker says one sentence at a time. So when there's a break in sentences, it's a different speaker.
I see.
Fábhunath in Thathús, Outward, That timber is rotted. So spreekt soortliedje a geen naft waalje nog. Ich my dal minus woeda juvan. Zwart wel chisti.
Let me know when you've all come up with something. It doesn't have to be too specific to the sentences, just an idea of what they're talking about.
Okay.
Fernando, what did you think the story was about, or the dialogue?
I think the dialogue is about a house and the forest and who lives there, and the forest that is enough something, and then they say goodbye in the end, I think. So I got wer lebt in diesem Haus, and apparently an Edward lives there, and then they talk about timber or some wood maybe, and that the forest is enough, and yeah, du sprichst, maybe du sprichst, and yeah, some parts I got, and this is the context that I think it is about.
That was very good. Moritz?
Yeah, reading it definitely helped. I think it is something like who lives in this house, Edward. His I have something like his wood or his timber is rotten. So and then you talk. I'm not sure about so thliche, but you speak like he has maybe enough of something. And then I would have given him my wood, or have given some of my logs or timber or whatever, and you are very maybe gracious or something like that.
Okay. And Eric?
Yeah, I think in the beginning the speaker asked who lives in this house. So in German would be wer wohnt in diesem Haus. That's what I got. And then the answer is Edward, or in Eduard it would be in German. And then something with timber, which could mean, I don't know, Zimmer, or maybe more like boards, like in English. Du sprichst softly is something I got, like du sprichst, which would be Denglish, German and English mixed. You talk softly. Du sprichst leise. Something I got. Don't know if it makes sense in this context though. And then I thought he offered to rent him his house or something, that he would give him mine or his, from his kind of point of view.
Okay, everyone did very well there. I think you all got du sprichst being du sprichst. So I'll translate the sentences. So it's who lives in that house? Edward.
Mm-hmm.
The timber is rotten. You say the truth, but he doesn't have enough forest or woodland. I can give a bit of my wood. You're very kind. So basically exactly what Moritz said. But everybody got a lot of that. So the one word that seemed to be a problem was softliche, which I'm not sure if that has a cognate. I didn't think it did. So that's sort of truthfully, honestly. So source is truth.
I think maybe it's a cognate to the German word sanft. Because
Okay.
there is this nasalized consonant is in I'm not sure how to explain it properly, but in North Sea Germanic languages like Frisian and also Old English, it's like this us, uns distinction, or goose and ganz, and this thing, and maybe sanft and soft, and that could be a connection right there, maybe.
Yeah, that's so. The soft word isn't related to the modern English word soft. It's related to forsooth, which is like an old way of saying truthfully. But you're right about I think it's called the Anglo-Frisian nasal spirant law. No, maybe the West Germanic nasal spirant law. But as you say, a nasal consonant like n is lost if it comes after a vowel and before a fricative consonant. So like you said, with uns becoming us and then us in English, and the word which in German is Gans, I think I pronounced that right, like goose, becoming Gans and then Gors and then goose in English. So I'm not actually sure what the Proto-Germanic for south would be, the ancestral word. So it may, yeah.
Is it related to the Greek sophos? Like that is maybe rather wisdom than truth, but
Potentially. I would say if it was related to a Greek word, you'd expect the Greek word to have a T rather than a F sound. But also there are sometimes exceptions to these things, so quite possibly. Although in ancient Greek, I think maybe the PH actually was an aspirated P.
There's also in Danish is the word for truthful is sand, which is written SAND, and maybe that could be related to that.
That definitely sounds like it might be related, because a lot of the time where in Proto-Germanic you had an interdental fricative like the or the. In other Germanic languages, that's now surfaced as a d sound. So that definitely sounds like it could be. Because I think is the Danish for tooth something like tand or tond or something like that, and then that's cognate with English tooth. So that would be exactly mirroring the situation in Old English tooth, and yeah. So that probably actually is cognate. That's very, very well spotted indeed. I wouldn't have noticed that. Yeah, but I think everyone's done fantastically there. I think.
Yeah, well done, everybody.
Yeah, very well done, everyone.
Well done. It all went well. So what do you guys think? Was it a challenge for you, or was it difficult, easy? Eric, you go first.
It was definitely challenging. I mean, I think I got like most of the time only like 20 or 30%, except with this one sentence where I was really lucky. There are some similarities, I would say, to German, definitely. Especially the conjugations of the verbs and everything, that was pretty similar and interesting to me. Like sprichst, for example, in the last example. But yeah, still a very different language, I would say.
Moritz, what about you?
I thought it helped a lot that the sentence structure was kind of similar to Frisian and German, I think, if you compare Old English to Modern English. So I think that helped me with deciphering some words. I find it just fascinating how many cognates there are, and if I find a relation to a different word in one of my languages, it's an interesting thing. I don't think that Old English and German are by any chance mutual intelligible. So yeah, but it was very interesting, and I think I got a lot more than I thought.
What about you, Fernando?
Yeah, I would say the same about German and Old English. I think no one can really understand it just from hearing. For example, when you said Hervon, I understood something like Heoron, and that reminded me rather of hero then. So there are a few false friends when you only listen to it, and it helps a lot reading the sentence, and then you can actually read far more than you would maybe expect.